Hello, I'm Claire Jewitt, and this is the Diary of an Orange Cat. The diary entries of a thoughtful, slightly neurotic ginger cat named Weasley, written from a small harbour community in New Zealand. This episode is called Live at the Point. After several years of lockdowns, restrictions, cancelled events and endless announcements from self-appointed experts, life in Diamond Harbour is finally starting to feel normal again. Community events have returned, people are gathering once more, and for one ambitious feline trio, the opportunity has arrived to make their long-awaited musical debut. Unfortunately, as you'll soon discover, putting 3 cats, a large quantity of catnip, and a live audience together may not have been the wisest idea. And now, Weasley's diary. For months, Ron had been insisting that the Gingernuts were destined for greatness. Personally, I thought this was optimistic. Our repertoire consisted of exactly one song we'd never rehearsed properly, and Squeak was probably more likely to deliver a lecture on correct word usage than leap around on stage like a rock star. Still, when we heard that Live at the Point was returning to the Godley House grounds, Ron convinced us that this was our moment. What could possibly go wrong? Sunday, 29th of January, 2023. Thank goodness things have returned to relative normality now that all these crazy restrictions have been lifted. The Live at the Point music sessions at Godley House grounds have resumed, and the Gingernuts are making our debut. Our little trio was extremely nervous in the lead up to our performance. Ron gave Squeak and me a wink and said, "How about a brief session in the catnip, just to calm our nerves?" I wasn't fully on board with the suggestion, but I could definitely do with something to calm my nerves, and Squeak seemed keen. I resolved to be moderate. We'd been playing in the catnip for about 10 minutes, and I have to admit that I felt much better until I noticed that Ron was scrutinising my face more closely than I felt comfortable with. "What's the matter?" "You've got black gunk in your eyes," said Ron. "Hold still." Before I could protest, he came at me with both paws and attempted to flick it out of my eyes. "Sorry," winced Ron when he realised I had blood trickling down my front. "I forgot to put my claws in. Did I hurt you?" "Not particularly," I said while I attempted to lick my wounds, "but I can't go on stage with blood spurting out of my eyes." "The vet is in the harbour looking at Gary's kittens," said Squeak. "He lives quite near here. Nip in and see if he can help you. You look awful." "Gary's kittens," I said incredulously. "They're not still kittens, are they? Surely they've found new homes by now." "Different kittens," replied Ron. "He and Hypo have just had another litter." "Smaller litter this time," remarked Squeak. "She only had them a week or so ago, so I imagine he's just checking them over." "Checking Hypo over, I think," said Ron. "She got uterine inertia again." "Oh no," tutted Squeak. "Hopefully that'll be the last litter." For a moment I forgot about my bleeding eyes. "Hang on, wasn't Snowflake spayed back when she finally found a forever home after camping out under the deck at my house?" "Well, there's the funny thing," said Ron. "They took her to a vet in town for surgery, but it was unsuccessful. She has some sort of ovarian abnormality." "An extra ovary, I think," said Squeak. "You've got to wonder if that's why she keeps having all these gynecological problems." I felt on the edge of hysteria. The conversation looked set to degenerate into another lengthy discussion about Hypo's reproductive issues. I needed to sort my bloody eyes out and get ready for our upcoming gig. "What are you two going to do while I'm away?" "I need to get something from on the spot," said Ron. "Squeak, you stay here while Weasley sees the vet. We'll meet back at Weasley's house in a couple of hours." The 3 of us separated. Showtime minus 2 hours, that should be enough time. I sped towards Gary's house and just managed to catch the vet before she departed. I hurriedly explained my predicament. Gary, wearing a worried expression, nodded and offered me his bathroom to clean up my wounds. The vet followed me, her face filled with concern as I reassured her that it probably looked worse than it actually was. I told her that I was attending an important event in a few hours' time and was hoping for a quick remedy. She dabbed my eyes with a pink solution that I hope wouldn't leave a stain around my eyes. Just as I assumed that the consultation had ended, she looked at me intently and said, "How are you feeling, Weasley? Are things okay with you generally?" Yes, I'm fine." "No other problems then? Your pupils look a bit constricted. Are you on any prescription drugs?" I shook my head and attempted to look normal, wondering if she'd smelt the catnip. "Nothing you'd like to discuss while you're here?" she asked earnestly. Adopting my most innocent look, I said, "I'm just about to go on stage, actually." Then I told her all about the Gingernuts. She nodded her head and said, "Okay," using a concerned tone of voice that suggested that one of her patients having a rock and roll fantasy was anything but okay. "But if you feel the need to harm yourself or anything, please promise me you'll come to the surgery and talk things over." I nodded dumbly, hastily gave my regards to Gary and his kittens, then hightailed it back home. I wanted to talk to the guys about the vet thinking I'm a self-harming fantasist, but when I got there, Ron was hovering over a semi-comatose Squeak, assuring him that he was just applying a special potion to prevent his winter coat from shedding. I seized the bottle from Ron and read the label. L'Oreal Bold and Beautiful Burgundy Hair Dye. "This isn't even the right colour," I hissed at Ron. "It's all I could get it on the spot, and it's much better than the orange wig that I tried," he said, showing me a picture of Squeak in the catnip with what looked suspiciously like Mummy's orange dishcloth stuck on his head. If the situation weren't so serious, I would have cracked up laughing. "He's going to be furious when he wakes up." "Not after the amount of catnip he's had," giggled Ron. I hoped to hell that Squeak was going to be able to sing after all of this. We arrived at the venue, and Squeak, resembling a middle-aged woman attempting to conceal her greys, but he was so stoned he didn't seem to care. The wounds around my eyes were still bothering me, so I asked Ron to apply some of the pink solution that was given to me by the vet. To my horror, I saw him mix in some of Squeak's red hair dye. "What on earth are you doing?" I growled. "Just adding a touch of rock and roll, mate," replied Ron, his mind clearly elsewhere as he searched the grounds for Cookie. Seraphina, meanwhile, had set up the sound system, and before we knew it, she'd announced the Gingernuts over the PA system. The three of us ran onto the makeshift stage, and Squeak raised his paws and roared, "Hello, Diamond Harbour!" as though we'd just chop it into a packed Wembley Stadium. Then he did the action roll sequence that I didn't think he'd be able to repeat, which made me wonder if this might be something he'd been working on for quite some time. He seemed to have suddenly developed a rock and roll persona and strutted around on stage like Mick Jagger, banging his paws on the sound speakers and egging on the crowd. Just as I was wondering if this was down to the bold and beautiful burgundy hair dye, Squeak danced over to Seraphina, kicked her off the sound system, and jazzed up the backing track. Ron started screaming his falsetto, "Wee!" but then turned it into a fairly decent Robert Plant impersonation, and then we were off. Squeak was totally rocking it, but this prog rock metal version of The Lion Sleeps Tonight made me think that the lion was definitely not sleeping tonight, and I had no idea where to come in with my whimmerways. Squeak gave me the signal, and I took centre stage, my eyes looking like the demon from Kiss. That I did my whimmerways in the way that we'd practice. The crowd went mad. The last thing I saw through my rock and roll eyes was Cookie gazing adoringly at Squeak and Seraphina cornering Marlin into an embrace behind the stage. This wasn't one of our better ideas. You've been listening to The Diary of an Orange Cat by Claire Jewitt. If you enjoyed spending time in Weasley's world, please follow the podcast and leave a rating or review if you feel so inclined. Join me next time for another diary entry from Diamond Harbour, where an unexpected outbreak of politics leads to the formation of a feline cabinet and a surprising redistribution of power. Until then, remember, if your band only has one song, your lead singer is covered in hair dye, and your band members are under the influence of mind-altering substances, perhaps Wembley Stadium should wait until next year.